So my name is Tom. I am an educator for Cheehaw Park and Zoo as well as at Flint River Aquarium. And today we are going to do a talk on a really interesting topic and one that I find very interesting because we have some really cool animals that fall in that category actually. And that is nocturnal animals. So this is a very cool topic because it is a bit unique. So a lot of animals we think about, we see during the day and they're active during the day, and that's when they do their feeding and their movement. But we are going to talk about animals that are nocturnal, which means they are active during the night and they are usually hiding during the day. So we do not see them very often, which is kind of cool too that we are able to see some of these animals today. I have some fun clips. But yeah, so these nocturnal animals means that they are active at night. So this is when they will do things such as they will go out looking for food. This is when they will hunt. So we're going to talk about animals that not only go around roaming and looking for food, but that actually hunt at night. And we're going to talk about some ways in which some animals are good at hunting at night. So some specialized animals that can hunt. But before we dive into all of our different animal examples, I thought it would be interesting to talk about why animals are even nocturnal. So, what is the benefit of being a nocturnal animal, and why have animals adapted to do so? So, to start, there's a couple reasons that I think about when I think about why it's beneficial to be active at night and nocturnal. And the first is if you think about it, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of animals are active during the day. So if you're going to be active at night, that means you're potentially going to be exposed to less predators. So there's less of a chance that you're going to get eaten if you're active at night, right? So if there's less animals out at night, you're probably going to be a little bit safer. So a lot of animals, including things like insects, are going to come out at night. And this is kind of interesting to think about because this leads into another reason that animals are going to be active at night. And that's because there's going to be a lot of food available that there's also going to be less competition for. So what I mean by that is if there are less big animals out at night eating things like insects, then you don't have to worry about other animals trying to eat your food, right? So if you're one of the only animals that is good at coming out at night and eating things like insects, then you don't have to worry about other animals that are going to be doing the same thing. So, are you all familiar with mosquitoes? We don't really like mosquitoes, right? Because they bite us and they hurt. But you notice that mosquitoes, when do they usually come out and start biting us? When it starts to get dark out, right? So they're a good example of how food may become more available at night. So things like insects, like mosquitoes, start coming out at night. So what other animals do is they will come out at night and they will start to feed on those insects. So I hope that you're all seeing the pattern that there is a benefit to coming out at night and being nocturnal, and that is that there's some additional food that is going to come out at night. Okay, so there's less predators potentially, so it may be safer for some of these larger animals to come out and hunt at night and find food. But then, unrelated to food and being potentially food by getting eaten, there's another reason that a lot of animals may want to be nocturnal and active at night, and that is conditions can be nicer. So it may not be as hot. They can avoid really, really hot conditions by coming out at night when it's going to be cooler. And so that is a big thing as well. And so some of the examples I'm going to show you are of animals that are found in desert environments. So we know deserts can be really, really dry and really hot. So animals aren't going to want to come out in the middle of the day when it's going to be the hottest because that can be dangerous for them. So coming out at night can allow them to avoid the extreme conditions and extreme heat. I don't know about you guys, but I already think it's hot out. And I'm from up north a little bit more, but this is already hot for me. So I couldn't even imagine, right, if I was an animal and it was 120 degrees out in the middle of the day with full sunlight, that can be dangerous, right? So they're going to want to come out at night. So those are some of the common themes and reasons that it can be nice to come out at night and avoid things like predators and harsh conditions. So I hope that makes sense to everybody and you find that kind of interesting to provide some background on general reasons why animals come out at night. And then there's lots of ways that since these animals come out at night, that they can adapt to life at night, which means ways in which they are able to be good at coming out at night. So lots of different characteristics to help them be good at night life. And so that's what we're going to start talking about now. So we're going to start talking about some different animals that are nocturnal and ways in which they are good at being out at night. So with that, I am going to share my screen so that we can look at some different examples. And so the first that I want to talk about is this frog. So I mentioned that animals a lot of times want to come out for a couple different reasons, and this frog does it for all of those reasons. So this is a wood frog. This wood frog oftentimes has to make movements to get from breeding locations such as ponds where they lay their eggs and then forest environments where they like to stay. And for those reasons, they have to travel long distances sometimes. And when they're moving, they're relatively exposed to predators. So lots of things like to eat these frogs. It can be anything from a mammal, a thing like a house cat, foxes, raccoons, snakes love to eat frogs, birds like to eat frogs. So these frogs are food for a lot of animals. And for that reason, coming out at night can be a lot safer than during the day. So if it's out during the day, lots of things are going to be able to see them. But if they stay underneath leaf litter and in cool environments and moist environments, then they're protected not only from all of those animals that want to eat them, but then they're also protected from the sun and hot temperatures. So this animal is a bit unique in that they don't have to worry about desert conditions where they're extreme, but this frog is in general at risk of drying out. So if you look at this frog picture, and if you've ever held a frog, I don't know if you guys have ever held a frog or a salamander. Is that the case? Have you guys ever held a frog or a salamander?
You ever held a frog?
No.
No?
Yes.
Well, if you've ever held a frog, it feels wet, right? They're kind of slimy, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's because they like to have moist skin. They need to remain moist and wet to survive. And they're actually, this is really cool, they can move water through their skin. So they may not even necessarily need to drink water themselves. They can actually just get water right through their skin. But that also means that they can dry out really easily. So it's really important that they're able to stay near water or at least underneath leaf litter where it's nice and damp and wet. So for those reasons, this is a perfect example of an animal that would prefer to come out at night. And these frogs eat things like insects and worms. So especially on rainy nights, what do you see? What do you guys see all over the sidewalk when it rains at night? Do you guys know? Do you ever see worms all over the sidewalk when it's raining?
No.
No?
You don't see what? Yeah.
Next time it's raining, go outside and you'll see some worms all over the sidewalk. So that's nice for these frogs too, because they really like to come out when it's raining because they like to be wet. And then there's lots of food available too. So this is a really cool example of an animal that likes to be out at night. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So our next thing we're gonna look at is I have a cool video here. And this is an eastern screech owl. So can you guys all see my video?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is an eastern screech owl. This is a nocturnal animal. So we actually have screech owls here in Georgia. And you can probably tell that's me from a different date, but that animal is in our collection. So we do have an eastern screech owl. That owl's name is Red, but this is a nocturnal animal, and they are very cool for a lot of reasons. So I was mentioning that some of our animals are going to want to come out at night so that they can hunt, and this is a perfect example of that. So there's a couple things I want you to know about this owl. The first is, if you look at this owl, his eyes are actually pretty big compared to his head. And so those eyes are very good at seeing at night. This is something that is common for a lot of animals that come out at night. They need to be able to see well. And so having those large eyes is going to help them find food. And not only do they have big eyes, but they also have impressive hearing. So their ears are a little bit strange in that they are not found on at the same height on both sides of their head like our ears. So our ears are both at the sides of our head at the same height, right? Well, their ears, one is actually higher than the other on the side of their head, and they have what is called ear slits. So they're kind of just more like holes or slits in the side of their head. But having those ear slits at different heights allows this owl to really be able to determine if things like food is below them, above them, to the left of them, to the right of them, or kind of in front or behind. So having those ears at different locations on their head and kind of pointed in different directions is going to help them really be able to hear things well and a little bit more fine-tuned. So they're going to be better at determining where those noises are coming from. And so that's very helpful, because if it's dark out, you're going to need to rely on some things like hearing, because you might not be able to see as well, right? So that's very cool. And then what else these owls can do, which is cool, is they can fly without any noise. So do you guys know that owls could fly without making any noise? It's very cool. So what they have is they have specialized wings that allow them to break up the sound of wind when they're flying. So when they're flying, nothing can hear them, which is very helpful because that gives them an element of surprise, right? So if they're trying to fly around and scoop in on food, that food is not going to know that that owl is coming for them. So that's very helpful. And then what you may notice on my finger is those talons. So what I'm showing everybody right now in that video is the feet that are gripped onto that glove really tight. So those talons are very good at gripping onto and grabbing food like a mouse and carrying it back to somewhere safe where this owl can eat that food. So very cool. They're very good at hunting at night. They are most active in the first 4 hours as soon as the sun goes down. So as soon as the sun goes down, these owls are going to come out and they're going to start hunting. Okay. Could you guys all hear me during that owl video?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I didn't know if the video was going to play over my voice. All right. So do you guys have any questions about the owl before we move on?
No, I said they're good.
We're good. We're good.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna show another animal now that is also nocturnal. So that's one of my favorites. Red is one of my favorite animals, I'll admit. But we're gonna show another animal now that's nocturnal. I just wanted to make sure that you guys could indeed hear me before I moved on to another animal. Okay. Oh, what I'm showing there is the wing. So you can actually see some of those really specialized feathers of an owl wing, which is nice. So they are pretty good at flying as well. All right. And the next animal I wanted to show everybody, so it's going to be 1 second while, so this next animal we have to glove up for, and we have to put masks on because it is a mammal. So a lot of mammals are also nocturnal. This one is a bit more like what I was talking about in terms of it's found in a little bit drier of a habitat. And so this mammal will come out at night. It can travel very far distances, potentially over a mile a night just to find food. So they really like to eat. They can eat a lot. And what this animal is an African pygmy hedgehog. So that animal could not be found here in Georgia. It is found in Africa. And so some of the things that you're going to notice when you're looking straight at them right there is that they have rather large ears, right? So sometimes animals, if they don't have great sight, which this pygmy hedgehog does not, the pygmy hedgehog does not have good vision like the owl does, but they have those large ears. So those ears are going to be important for hearing, just like the owl could hear really well. The hedgehog can hear pretty well. And so that's going to help them in terms of avoiding getting eaten at night if there are other predators out. But the thing they are going to rely on the most when finding food, because that's why they're going out at night and traveling long distances, is to find food. So what you're going to notice is that his nose is really sniffing actively. Even in that video right there, he's really using his nose to get an idea of his surroundings. And so they can smell very well. They can smell pretty deep into the ground. So if they are trying to find food that is in the ground, like insects, they can do that. They can smell a couple inches into the ground. So I don't know about you guys, but if I were to go outside and sniff the grass right now, I'm not going to smell anything other than the grass and the ground and maybe some dirt. But these pygmy hedgehogs can actually sniff out food that's in the ground, which is pretty cool and interesting. And so when they're out searching for a long time, they're really going to rely on that sense of smell to find their food. And again, that's important because it's night out and they can't see too well. And that's going to be really cool. Now, while I have this video playing, I might as well tell you a little bit more about this animal. So what you're going to notice is those spines that I'm zooming in right now in the video. And so those spines are, if they are going to have an animal come after them and try to attack them or eat them, you'll notice that they have all those spines and barbs. And so those are going to be their way of protecting themselves. They're going to roll into a ball, and then the animal is only going to be exposed to those barbs. And so I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat a meatball that's covered in really sharp spines, right? And so that's how this pygmy hedgehog is going to protect itself, which is very cool and a cool adaptation. All right. So next, let's focus on a true desert environment. So now we are in this picture in the top right-hand corner, if you can see it, is the Mojave Desert. So that is an environment where it can get extremely hot. There can be very, very little rainfall, and temperatures can get up over 100 degrees, which is extremely hot and not fun, and even close to like 120 degrees. So this is a little mammal, again, that is found in this type of environment. So they need to be good at dealing with temperatures. And so one of the things that a lot of animals in these desert environments are going to do is they are going to hide in little burrows. So you can see in that bottom right-hand corner that that they are found in these little holes in the ground or these burrows during the day. So during the day, they're going to stay hidden. They are going to avoid those really hot temperatures. But because they're hiding all day, they need to come out at night. And so what you can tell about this animal from both pictures is that their eyes, again, are pretty large. So they do have relatively large eyesight, which is nice, so that they can see at night when they're venturing out. And then what this kangaroo rat will do is, since they're not covered in spines, they are really small. They don't have a whole lot of defense mechanisms available to them. So the only way they're really going to be able to protect themselves is they are going to jump, which is why they are called a kangaroo rat. So they can jump very far and very fast. So if anything does try to hurt them, they're going to try to jump as fast as they can and get back to their burrow or their hole where they'll be able to go underground. So they're very cool animals. These animals eat just seeds. So they will go out and they will collect things like seeds or nuts that they can find on any veg that may be around. And what's really cool is they will bring them back and they'll store them for a while. And what will happen is over time, those seeds will pick up water from the ground. And then once they're fully soaked, they'll eat them. So it's kind of nasty. I don't really want to eat a mushy seed or nut, but they do. And that will help them get water since they're in the desert and there's not a lot of water available. So that's something pretty cool that these animals can do. And then I had to see this, so I'm going to show it to you guys as well. But there are other cool animals that are nocturnal that are not my favorite, but that is things like this. So this is a camel spider. They are also found in desert environments. So again, spiders like this, since they are found in desert environments, are going to be inactive during the day, which means they are not coming out during the day, but rather they will run around at night. And what's kind of interesting about this spider is that they will quite literally run and run and run for over a couple hours to find food. So kind of like that pygmy hedgehog that can travel really far distances to find their food, so can this spider. And they're not the only spider that can do this. So these spiders are found in desert environments that are pretty harsh, but also so can this spider. So this is a Chilean rose-haired tarantula. So tarantulas are fun, they're cool. And just like that other thing, that other spider, the camel spider, this spider will stay in burrows during the day and then they will come out and search for food at night. And so what I wanted to mention about this spider is you can tell this spider is covered in lots of hairs, right? So one thing that could potentially help this spider, since they come out at night, is those hairs can be really good at sensing things, so they can feel a lot with those hairs. So if something is vibrating near them or moving near them, they're going to be able to sense it with their hairs, and that can really give them an advantage in trying to catch food or get away from any predators maybe, or things that are trying to get them. So having those really sensory hairs is going to be one thing that's nice about navigating at night or coming out at night. And so that's really cool. And I wanted to share with you guys something that we have here. So to give you an idea of how big some of these spiders can get. Oh, that is really bad glare. So this is cool. And so you can't really see the hairs too well on this one, but they do have those hairs and they're very good at sensing. They have hairs at the tip of their toes that will make them good at gripping on the surfaces too. So that could be nice when navigating at night. Being able to grip onto different surfaces really well can be a good advantage. And then moving on, one more animal that's really cool when thinking about animals that come out at night. Do you guys know what other animals come out and fly at night? That's a mammal. Do you guys have any ideas?
No.
No? Have you guys ever seen a bat before?
Yes. I saw it at the zoo. I saw it at the zoo too.
So what we have here is the skeleton of a bat, which is pretty cool, right? So these animals are very, very good at coming out and hunting at night and eating things like all of those insects and mosquitoes that are going to come out at night. So I don't know about you guys, but I like bats because I don't like mosquitoes and they can eat all the mosquitoes they want. But what's really cool is that when they're flying, so you can see they have their wings, right? Even though it's a mammal, they do have their wings and they can fly really well. But what they're doing is they do this really cool thing where they send out sound waves, and we call that echolocation. So have you guys heard of that before? Do you know that bats can send out really fine-tuned sound waves? So what they're doing is they're sending those out, and then the sound waves will bounce off of objects like flying insects, and then they'll bounce back to the bat, and they can sense those sound waves that are bouncing back. And by sending out those really cool sound waves, they can determine where an insect is in the air. They can determine what direction it's in and the texture of that insect. So it's incredible how impressive these little sound waves that they emit are at reflecting back and allowing the bat to home in to the exact location of an insect to the point where it can scoop in and eat it. So it's very cool. And so I'm going to show you a picture really quick of a bat. So what they'll do, you can see this bat is out at night. It is going to be active at night. They are very nocturnal. And one thing that they will eat at night, in addition to mosquitoes and other insects, is moths. So moths are a great food source for bats. But what's really interesting is that a lot of moths have learned that these bats are going to use these echolocation sound waves to try to locate where they are. And the moths have started to develop ways in which they can confuse the bat. So some moths have developed these ears, is what we call them, although they're not really ears, they're more like sensory systems that cover their bodies. And so what that does is it actually allows them to determine when one of those sound waves has hit them. And if they get hit by one of those sound waves and they determine that, then they can say, uh-oh, a bat just located me. And if they know the bat has located them, then they're going to do everything they can to try to get away. So they may start flying in circles to confuse the bat. They may tuck their wings in and just free dive to try to get to the ground or somewhere safe. So it's very, very cool. It's kind of a competition between the bat and the moth. So the bat is really good at locating the moths, but now the moths have learned that the bat is good at doing that, and they have gotten pretty good now at trying to find ways to get away from the bats. So I hope you guys find that as cool as I do. I think it's really interesting that there's kind of this competition to see who can do better at, locating or getting away. And these bats are very cool in that they're able to hunt at night using sound waves. I think that's really interesting. And I think it's the last animal I had. And so with that, I am going to open it up to any questions you guys may have. I hope you found all of those examples interesting and that they helped provide some understanding of why animals come out at night and cool ways in which they can help find food at night. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions? No questions? They did a good job. No questions? They say no.
I don't have any questions. You guys, nothing about the owls or the bat or anything?
Well, our one talker had to leave, so
Oh no.
we normally have the same one. He'll ask a million questions. He's gone now. So
All right.
Ethan, you got any questions? All right.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it and that we see you again next week, okay?
Well, thank you. Y'all tell him thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.